Thank you for tuning in to the Look Up Podcast. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We don't take your time lightly. And thanks for being a part of the Look Up Pod fam. Let's jump into the episode. Welcome back to Look Up Podcast. This is your host, Roman Downing.
And Alani Downing. And we're back with another episode. We are on episode 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't keep track.
Wow.
I don't know where we're at now. I mean, if you technically want to look at it from where we are from the beginning, we're probably on like 10. No, maybe 12.
More than that.
Maybe 15.
I think
but
maybe
anyways,
20 or something.
Welcome back. We're
Right.
back, and a lot has changed since our last episode. So do we do a life update? Do we just go in on what we want to talk about?
I feel like every episode is like a lot has changed.
Hello, a lot's changed.
Well, we're back.
Yeah.
Right.
And every episode we're like, we're working on being consistent. And then, well, it doesn't happen. But you know what? That's okay.
Right.
You can always do what you want to do. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm. It sure is. That's our dog out there.
If you can hear her, yeah, we have a yard now. We're not.
I know. We're in a house.
We're in a house. We have a yard. She's out in
Yeah.
the backyard. There's a nice breeze outside. And she's barking at the neighbors.
Yeah. God is amazing. It looked like something just ran up on her. She coming right back inside.
A bug?
I don't know what it is, but she looking down at something over there. Yeah, she is not feeling the vibe out there.
Yeah. So,
Anyway.
I mean, a lot's happened, a lot's changed, but
Yeah.
I'm just grateful. And I'm excited to get back on the podcast because I think it's going to be different this time. I think I said that last time, but I mean it this time.
Right. What do you feel like is going to be different, or maybe what even needs to be different?
I feel like, well, in my mind, I think that the podcast on its own, if you're not in my mind, it's like, it's working great. Things are going well. Like the topics I feel like are good. But when you're in my mind, I'm overthinking. I'm doing too much analysis. And for those of you that are overthinkers and overanalyze, that's me. It's not Roman.
No.
I know that's not you. You're just like, it's whatever, like whatever. I like go into every single episode, and I've talked about it plenty of times of like, I need a topic. I need an outline. I need a play-by-play, but we're going to talk about at 5 minutes to 10 minutes. Like we overspoke on this thing. Now we need to go back and circle back. So we made sure to touch on that thing. And how did we tie it in at the end with a Bible verse?
Right. Or how do we tie every point in with the Bible verse?
I think I was just trying to be a pastor too much.
Right.
So,
which we are not.
And that's
right?
not what it is. That's not what we made the podcast for. And that's something I got to continuously remind myself. So.
Well, I think it's because of what we used to do for a living.
And I think that's also like, just in life, it's like, I think we try to do and force things too much in our personal lives in every area. And really, it's like, if you just let things be how they will be naturally. Does that even make sense?
Yeah. But I think that might be a part of like, how we're raised, just the people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
Of always just trying to do our best. I think it comes from a good place. I really do. Is that you're just trying to do our best and offer the most value that we possibly can to the people that listen. And you can apply it to anywhere in your life, I feel like. And, you just want to do your best.
Right.
You do.
Speaking of, I want to play a game.
Okay.
There's, there was like this game that I saw. And like, I can't remember what it is. We'll circle back because it came into my mind. I didn't write this stuff down because it was just on the whim. But how are you? And how's Central Academy? How is school? And
it's great. I'm learning a lot. I mean, the other day, you were helping me out with my homework, and I was thinking about actually quitting Central Academy and leaving a ministerial school just because I felt like I was going through the ropes. It was just going through the motions on a lot of things, and
like you felt like
turning
you weren't
in my
learning,
assignments
right?
last
like
minute.
You were
It
kind of, you started going back into like how we were in school.
Treating it like school.
Like whatever, I'm just doing it for a grade, but then
it's
like you forget that you're not in it for just a grade anymore, or just
Right.
to like get a diploma or whatever.
Right. And, you feel like you have to do it because obviously you paid money for it, which I think is the mentality a lot for a lot of kids in school right now. But yeah, doing that last assignment really helped a lot. Just doing an audit on yourself and doing an audit on how you are and how you're living your life now. And, maybe you aren't who you think you are anymore. Maybe you've changed a little bit, even over like the past 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, right? You live your life as a certain way and a certain identity for so long.
But then you realize like that's not,
Maybe that was never even you.
or maybe that was you. I think that we think too much. Like, I think we were talking about this the other day, where it's like
Mhm.
people's dreams can change.
And
Like,
people can
you
change,
you
right?
can change.
Right.
Like, I think that it's like we're always stuck in emotion that it's like I need to find who I am. Like, this isn't me, or this was me, or
Right.
it's like maybe all of it is you, and maybe all
Right.
of that part was you, and
Right.
that was what your dreams and goal were at that time. But it doesn't mean that it has to still be that a year from now, or even a month from now, or even like a week from now. Like, it can
That's true.
change and it can evolve as we grow and evolve, because we're aging, and like I'm not the same exactly as I was yesterday.
Right.
My body isn't, you know what
Right.
I
It's
mean?
true.
Just as itself, it's another day older. It's not, 25 in X amount of months and X amount of days. It's now, it's further than that. So I think when
Right.
we think of that, like we're changing, like I think, like our dreams can change, our goals can change, our desires can change. And like, there shouldn't be anything.
Sometimes I feel like it's
Like,
not
wrong with
allowed
that.
to, though.
I feel that way too.
Right.
I feel that way where it's like, you got to find a goal, you got to commit to it, and you got to
Mhm.
write it down and like
And stick
pursue
to it
that.
and stay on the road. And,
Yeah. But that's like what I'm reading about in that book. It's like being able to really truly find your purpose. And it's like you may think that what you have is your purpose, but maybe you don't exactly know what God's purpose is for you. And like I feel like it takes time to figure out. It's not like you just wake up and you're like, oh, or like even you read some of the prompts in there and you're like, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do for that, and I know exactly what I feel like I'm passionate about. And so like being able to talk through some of those questions like I was talking with you about before, like kind of opens your minds to like, maybe I do want that. And I know it's like like when you think about our dreams as kids, like I wanted to be a doctor or whatever, or a vet. And
Right.
then as you grow older, you realize what comes into that. And you're like, I want to be this. And so,
I wanted to be a marine biologist.
see, and do you still have that desire?
No.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think so too often we'll beat our own selves up for being like, oh, well,
I'm so wishy-washy.
yeah.
Right.
But in reality, it's like, maybe that isn't your true calling. And who knows what it is?
Right.
I feel like when you know what I mean? It'll just, but then at the end of the
think you'll
day,
know
like,
when it's done.
I think so too. You'll be like,
That's my
That's what you meant,
that's
God.
my thought on it. I was thinking about this the other day. I think I shared it with you the other day. It's like, how people like when they get interviewed once they've already made it in whatever profession it is or
you didn't tell
whatever
me
it
about
is.
this, no.
I was thinking about this.
Okay.
And I was just like, people always get interviewed like when they make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're always just like, I always, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a singer. Or ever since I was a kid, I wanted to do this and do that. I think it's cap a lot of the times.
I think some of those things are valid. I think it just depends. Like, I think if you met with like a multimillionaire businesswoman, which I have watched a lot of those like YouTube videos of like this one guy, he interviewed like a bunch of millionaires and like asked them all these questions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like they didn't know that was like he asked them like, did you know that this was the business you're going to be in? No. But I think there are some of those are valid. Like, yeah, for those who like have that passion of singing, like, and always wanted to be a singer and then became a singer. I think some of those, sure. And I think it's like, remember how you were saying like not everyone are called, and those who are called. What you said something about on those lines.
So those who are
chosen,
like preordained, pre-chosen by God,
and those who choose. I think it's it's similar like to that.
Both of them can exist, right, at the same time.
Right.
And I think that's something that we all struggle with is like what we literally just mentioned is that maybe both can be true. right?
Right, because there's no, and like we talked about this like the other day, where it's like the world isn't black and white and
Right.
like
But it's
right and
hard to think
exactly
like
wrong,
that.
and there's one way and then there's a complete other way. Like there's gray areas in
I feel
everything.
like we're literally raised and trained to think one way or the other way, though.
It is.
Like
That's
we're
what
not
our
allowed
school
to.
system is.
Right.
It's literally what we are indoctrinated as
Right.
children,
Mhm.
and what our society comes around us to push down our throats when it comes to the
Right.
media and
Right.
it comes to, just social circles. You know what I mean?
I think morals and ethics, yes, there's clear cut right and wrongs, but anything beyond that,
You know what's
I
funny?
think
I
it's
feel like
not
there's
clear-cut.
even some gray areas when it comes to that.
When it comes to
It's
morals,
like, well, what if he had this going on, which caused them to do this? And like, I've read some
That's
scenarios where it's like, where you can empathize with, like, okay, understand why he shot that man, because that
you
man,
can
like,
empathize, but
assaulted
that
his
still
child
doesn't
or
mean
something.
it's wrong or it's right, right?
I guess that's true.
Like is like immoral acts then moral depending on the circumstance? It's a great question.
That is a great question. I won't know the answer to that until I get to heaven, but
Right. Because you know how John Maxwell has that book, There's No Such Thing as Ethics, as business ethics.
it's just ethics.
It's just ethics, right?
Yeah, but that's totally different, because that's like trying to say it's only
true.
applicable in a business world, which it is. Like there's like business ethics where it's like that should just be ethics overall, because we're all
Because
human,
we're all
and
here
it's
in the business,
and,
but it just be right. There's like basic general ethics and like human rights, right? That we should all follow. But I don't know. That is a good question. I'm gonna have a laundry list when I get up there. I'm gonna be like, okay, let's chop it up a little bit.
That's what my dad always used to tell me. He's like, if you have, like, I always used to be like, why is God like do this, or why do you feel like we have it like this, or why does it say like that in the Bible? And he's like, you're just gonna have to ask God when you get there. And it's just, we're just never gonna have all the answers. We never will.
We'll never understand everything.
We can act like we know it all,
Right.
or we can give really good justifications, but at the end of the day, we don't know the absolute 100% truth of every single thing.
Right. Because no one has been able to see God.
No one is God.
Or really hear him for
he hasn't written down an
1,000
explanation
years.
of why he does this, and this. You know what I mean? In
almost 1,000
specifics.
years, right.
We can understand like his heart. We can understand who he is, and we can learn more about him and build that relationship through him, through the
Bible.
word and through prayer and through worship. But we still will never fully understand,
who he
how
is and
great
all of
he
his
is.
glory until we get to heaven. Right.
Right.
Which is true.
And the depths of his
Right.
like understanding.
Right.
And mind.
Yeah. That's actually pretty crazy. It's pretty cool too.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Because there's like Bible verses that say like you really can only understand who he is and see him in all his glory if you stand behind the rock. They say the rock is Jesus. So
well, that's what we believe as Christians, is
right.
we believe that through Christ we are saved.
Right.
Through Christ
we have God's grace and glory.
So that makes sense.
So accepting Jesus into your life is a big step to understanding who God is and how he works and how he moves.
Accepting Jesus into your heart. Yeah.
And into your life. Letting him be the center of what you got going on in your life. That's a big challenge. But
even though you've accepted him, it doesn't necessarily mean like you're going to have all the answers yet either.
No.
And like, I think as you continue to grow in this life, and then, you learn even more, I think you'll never really fully grasp like how great he is.
Right.
It's just, we're just a mere human.
Right. I think that's one of the cool things about talking to older people is that you can kind of get to see that wisdom just flowing through them. And
wisdom is something that truly is learned through experience. You know why we will say like, oh, that young kid's so wise or something. Typically,
he's wise beyond his years.
A lot of times those children have gone through a lot of life. They've just gone through a lot of traumas, really, and just have learned through that. And it's like in that Remember, that just randomly reminded me of that Bible verse where it's like, count all of your trials as joy,
Count it all joy.
because it helps build like
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And through perseverance and through all that, you gain wisdom.
Yep.
Which is true. I mean, if you just look at like little basic things in life too, like you learn that a stove is hot, so you know not to touch it again. Now you've gained wisdom that machine, when it's on, is hot. You know what I mean?
But you had to get burned.
Exactly. And sometimes I feel like it's like that too. Like when we were just talking about kind of like circling back to our goals,
Right.
like that just
About,
came
like,
back to my
what
head.
should you do with your life?
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's okay to make mistakes.
It takes wisdom.
Right.
To know.
And experience.
And to find out. It's
what
like you
really
just never
want, what you
know
don't want.
unless you do it.
Right.
Like what Izzy was saying.
Right.
And after, the fight, he's
Yeah.
like, you'll never know this true joy,
never
this
get that
happiness
joy.
that I'm feeling.
Because he failed 3 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Israel Adesanya. Failed 3 times in a row. Got knocked out twice.
Right.
Right. And then he tried again that 4th time. You know how many people wouldn't even just want to do a 3rd fight, let alone a 4th fight, right? And sometimes you have to just believe in yourself, believe in your mental, and fortify your mind is what he was saying a lot during this fight camp. And you can do some pretty cool stuff with your life as long as you just try and you put yourself out there. So it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very true. I love that. I love him. He's an inspiration. I don't know where he stands spiritually and stuff like that. I don't think that really matters, but I know his parents are very Christian, very religious,
Mm-hmm.
and they did a lot of fasting and a lot of praying for him for this last competition, and he pulled it out, which is pretty awesome. I went nuts.
Right. Yeah, that was a fun fight.
Yeah. What do you think about it? Because I know you had some stuff that you were thinking about that whole thing and the speech that he said at the end.
Yeah, like I was just talking about it.
Because it motivated me, that's for sure.
In what way?
Sometimes when you just get knocked down and you fall on your face, or you get knocked out in his sense. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to get back up. Sometimes you don't feel like achieving whatever you wanted to achieve is even possible. But when you can just renew your mind, like he was saying,
Mm-hmm.
and just try again and try again and try again and try again, and be okay with losing, be okay with the chance that it may not go your way. You'll get that opportunity to have a glorious moment. And it just makes me that's why we're back on this podcast, I feel like.
Right.
And you never know what you're saying or what you will say to people that will motivate them to get back on the horse, which is pretty cool. I think the main reason why we're even recording right now is because of that speech. And I watched him on YouTube. He just posted a video, and he's just like, I don't even know where that speech came from. I wasn't even preparing it. And then he just looked up at the sky and he said, I'm a vessel.
Yeah. We all are. I think at some point in our lives where we just are, if you allow it to be used by God, like he'll use you in some ways. I mean, like there's been some things that I've said in podcasts where I'm like, I don't even know where that came from because I don't remember learning that like at all, or like that's not even at the top of my mind. But oftentimes it will just come out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you just need to move.
Mm-hmm.
Just make that one step, and then God will take over and do the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he'll bless the steps that you walk.
Right. So what made you want to stay in Central Academy?
Just realizing that I need to be a better person.
What made you realize that?
We took this assessment, and I don't know if I already mentioned it in this recording or not, but we took this assessment, and I don't think I dove into detail, but it just revealed a lot of the things about like the things that I've been kind of lacking in my life, that I felt like I was at one point. Like, we took this leadership quiz and I scored pretty low in pretty much every area. And I was actually honest on these things. Most people aren't honest, but I was actually honest on it about, I believe it was humility. I would believe it was, I can't remember, but I scored low on everything. Just know that. But, there was a lot of areas that I felt like I was strong in. Hunger was one of them. That one always hurts, right? You never don't want to not be hungry, but I scored low in the hunger category, and it's just like, dang, where did my desire go? Right? Where did it go? Where did my motivation go? Where did my drive go? Like, why was I so ambitious back then? And when you have instruments that can have you think about those types of things and make you question yourself like that, and tools, you shouldn't let that stuff go. You shouldn't quit on those types of things.
Right. Like, you shouldn't, like I was just saying, like things that challenge you. So you're not stuck. Because I think it's easy to get yourself stuck unless you have something there to kind of like bring awareness that you're like in this position.
Right. That you're not messing up, not screwing up your life, but maybe like for most people, like where we're at in life, they probably would be cool. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, they'd be cool. They'd be happy. But maybe that point in your life, you are not where you want to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes somebody needs to come from the outside and just like kind of shake you and wake you up and be like, hey, this isn't the finish line.
So what do you feel like got you to like this point? Like, why do you feel like it was so much lower than before? Like, looking back and like evaluating, like, what made you feel that?
I think it's because I was just so intense for like so long. And a lot, I was depriving myself from entertainment. I was depriving myself from relaxing and vacations and stuff like that. And, I stopped doing that. And I started kind of just enjoying, quote unquote, enjoying life, which I think is still like so important. And I think it's really stupid to not do those things. But I don't know, you kind of overindulge on those things. You get lazy and you forget, you kind of lose your purpose in life, and you kind of lose your way. And you, for me at least, I felt like I didn't know who I was for a little bit. And I'm still in that stage of just trying to figure out, who am I now that I'm not this person that I thought I was over the past 6, 7, 8 years. Now that I'm not that, what am I? And I feel like over the past year, I've just been kind of just floating, trying to figure out, like, who am I? You know what I mean? And then we always, what I feel like that word is like, what's my purpose? I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand. But then I don't know. And then I read all these books and I take all these quizzes to try to figure out what my purpose is. What do I like? You know what I mean? And I don't know. Just kind of are waiting for a sign.
I think it's that it's like we're so concerned with trying to find a purpose that like we don't just live. Like I feel like why can't your purpose to just be, that's it, like to just be. Like you're just alive and you're living and you're here. And like it's also good to have a lot of outside opinions, even though it's like, yes, we don't want to obviously like live by other people's opinions, but it's good to have like an outsider's point of view into your life, because I was feeling that way a lot too. And then like obviously building a lot of like those work relationships, and like I've been talking a lot with them on the phone, and these are people that I'm not like super close with. Like I've had obviously those two that I talk to more often, but then I was building relationships with like a couple others who I've never spoken with at work, and then obviously getting a promotion. Now people are reaching out, and like when we've talked on the phone and they're saying, Alani, like you're like this and you're like that. And I'm like, really? And they're like, you're so good at this and that. And I'm like, I don't see that. And then like having people tell me you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And I'm like, I never thought of these things, but it's like, it's good to have just another person that I don't really have like a super tight relationship with, to be able to like see those things and to like notice those things and to tell you those things. Because I think a lot of times as we try to figure out like our own life's purpose by ourselves, but I think sometimes you need like those other people around you to help guide you into that path.
Right.
And I feel like that isn't, you know, I feel like that's God also using the people around you to help steer you in the right direction.
That's true.
Like, I think if it's like for example, with like Central Academy, like you were ready to just stop and give up. And
that
then,
day.
like, and I, for some reason, just felt the desire to tell you like all those things that we were talking about. And then obviously that made you reevaluate, rethink, and, you know. And so I think it's like that too. It's that, yeah, I think it's important to just be, and I also think that it's important to just have another opinion, because some people see things in you that you don't see, or that you think you know, but you don't. You know what I mean? Like, even when I tell you like, oh, you're like this and like this when you were taking the test, and you're like, huh, you know?
Right.
And like, that's how I felt too with those people telling me those things, of multiple different opinions, who aren't even in the same friend group. Like they're all very different individuals. To notice those different things for myself, I was like, okay. And they're like, you should be a lot more of this, and you should be saying a lot more of that, because you are like this. And like, I've noticed this from you. And like, I've only known you for, 7-8 months, but I've seen this and this and this. And so I think that that's also a big factor.
Right. Do you feel like that's like having like a good friendship circle? Because you know, you wouldn't even, would you call the people that you talk to friends?
Yeah. I think that it's like I used to be so...
Do they need to be friends for you to even get good perspective and wisdom?
Right. And I think anyone can be a friend. I think it's just, what do you define a friend?
Right.
I think before, what I was about to say is that I had a definition of a friend that had to be so specific.
Right.
And they needed to hit all these boxes, and that they needed to be on the same page with me. I needed to be able to tell you things, and, you should tell me things. I don't know. I had such a strict criteria. Mm-hmm. And then when I look at like people like, it's funny, one of them just messaged me right now. And it's when I look at people like when I watch pastors and like our pastor, where I watch people in the church, and how they could be friends. They're like friends with everyone. They call everyone a friend. Do you know what I mean? They aren't super strict if like they hang out privately. Like maybe they just talk every once in a while. Why can that person not be considered a friend? Why does that only need to be considered an acquaintance or something? I think that since I've noticed with myself that I've allowed myself to open up more to other people around me. I used to be very like more closed off, and I'd only share certain information with certain people. Right. Because I don't know, I think it's like how we were, like you were saying, how we were living in the past, 5-6 years, and what we were doing before. I think I just closed myself off too much, but I think because I've allowed myself to open up more, I think that, yeah, I would consider them friends, because I feel if I can talk to you and you're listening, I'm going to call you a friend. Like, it doesn't matter if I've met with you once, or like we talk every day, or we talk every 6-7 months. Like I would, yeah, I think it just makes sense.
Right. To get that good wisdom and that good perspective. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's something that I can start praying about, is having people around me that can help me with clarity and stuff like that. Because I feel like I don't really have people around me that I can do that with.
I felt that way too. And then I prayed about it really hard, and randomly I started just...
You have a ton of friends now.
I know. I'm always on the phone these days. I feel like I talk all the time.
You that one auntie now.
I'm always on the phone talking to somebody. Somebody's calling me, or I'm texting to somebody. And yeah, I think that's what it was. I prayed for good friendships, and like, I'd say, some of them are a little iffy, but for the most part, they're good people. You know what I
Right.
mean?
At heart. Right.
They're good people at heart, and it's like you can learn from every single person around you. And like that, like maybe those people that have been reaching out to you and like messaging you, like maybe you should just allow yourself to be more open. Like that's what I've noticed. Like once I started opening up myself, and like what I mean by that is like I've been sharing with them my desires. I've been sharing with them what I care about when it comes to like
Right.
my spiritual life. And like I've shared that with a few people, and that's allowed them to kind of open up and, you know, talk more one-on-one with me. And then obviously I share the negative things going on in my life. Before that was like a no-no. Like I would never complain about my life to someone else, because that was like, in my mind, it's like you're making people think less of you. You know, that's how I used to think. Like, oh, if I shared this negative portion of what's going on, like, I don't know, I'm making you feel sorry for me or something. I don't know. That's just how I used to think. But yeah.
Making you carry a burden that you didn't ask for or something like that.
Right. You know, because I always used to just be the person where you could just dump all your problems on me. Like I'm the listener in like any group of friends I've ever made. I'm usually the listener, but I've just allowed myself to just start speaking more and talking more and like sharing my frustrations too. And like I feel like that's helped me build better relationships.
Right.
Because
And
it
knowing the
doesn't,
difference between what's a load and what's a burden.
yeah.
Right.
And sometimes it's like, why do you have to just be so picky choosy on that? Like sometimes it's just like, it's just good to just communicate.
Right.
And not be so careful with your words, and not be so like conscious of like, oh, I don't feel like I'm being too negative. And that is something that I've talked about with one of my friends now, is like, I don't want this to come off as negative. And she's like, you're not a negative person. Like, stop saying that. Like, I know your intentions. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. So just say how you feel. It's not negative. You know, you're just communicating and you're being honest about how you're feeling. And I was like, that is a good point. So
That's true.
because before I think all I really had was you. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying that it's good to have others as well.
Right. I agree. And we're not meant to carry burdens alone.
Mm-hmm.
Was learning in Central Academy that burdens go to God, loads you can have someone help you lift that off your shoulders. Right. So it's not bad
To share it.
to share, express what you're going through in your life. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. And what I've found is that there's always someone else who's going through exactly what you're going through.
Right.
Like before I used to think like, I don't know, but like kind of talking with all these other people, I'm like, you all also are feeling how I'm feeling about just random things, not necessarily about.
Right. And you never know unless you ask, right?
Yeah.
Unless you share, unless you express
Unless
those
you
feelings.
share. Yep.
Instead of keeping them bottled up. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. I think I'm going to start reading again too.
That's how I felt too. I think it's like, you know, you got to switch it up a little bit. And that's how I started picking that book back up after I've been on the first half of the book for like 3 months.
And we used to be readers, like avid readers. You know,
and even before,
like
growing up, like I would read 10 books at a time from the library. I enjoy it, but I think it's that I had some of like those personal negative connotations toward reading I needed to shed.
Right. Because some of those actions, you know,
right,
they correlate with certain parts of your life and stuff like that. Like there's some songs you can't listen to because it makes you think about certain parts of your life and stuff like that. You get emotional and stuff, or like,
and that's like through working through things. I think it's like over time. I think maybe, I don't know how long it'll take, but over time I'll stop caring so much about it, and it won't be an issue.
Those things that hurt you in the past.
But you know, I don't know how long that will take.
Right, and the wounds will heal.
I remember I couldn't listen to Somewhere Over the Rainbow without crying.
Right, because that song was played at your
and now I can listen to it and I'm like, I like this song. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it's the same way, like with reading and listening to good podcasts. Like I remember being those activities with something that was correlated to something very negative to us in the past. I think like obviously taking some time away from it helped, for me anyways, just kind of shed the It's almost like I was like literally like, a snake, like getting rid of like the old skin of like,
Right.
it doesn't matter now to me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And now I can take it for what it is.
Right.
It's just reading. And it's not correlated to doing this and this and this. It's just that.
Right. To add some clarity, it might sound like we're speaking in code.
Yeah.
To add some clarity,
I think
you guys have shared we've shared this plenty of times, but
being
being
involved with
an MLM, they kind of drilled us on making sure we
reading
read
and listening to audios every single day. And really tying your worth to whether or not, I think that's what it more is. That we tied our sense of self-worth on whether or not we picked up a book that day and listened to an audio that day.
Right.
And if we didn't, then you're a loser. Like, what the F are you doing?
You're
like,
a piece of crap.
You're
not going to be
You're
successful.
not going to be successful because you chose not to read today and you chose to watch
not
TV.
To better yourself.
That's a whole other topic that I can literally go on and on about, but we're not going to go on and on about that. So I think that's what it is more so, is that I know I did, really tied my self-worth, and I had a measuring stick of who I was based off of whether I did those activities. So I think not doing it really helped just like remove
those chains. And then, like touching on the whole friendship thing. I think that's another thing why we've had a tough time building relationships that don't necessarily have some sort of cost benefit type of thing.
Right. Where it's just like, I can just talk.
We can just be friends.
Exactly.
Like, I don't have to have a benefit towards you, and you don't have to have some sort of advantage or benefit towards being my friend. Like, we can just be friends.
Right. It's like, I'm not friends with you because you
are
my business partner.
You're my business partner, quote unquote, or you make this amount of money and I want to learn from you. I mean, that's good things to do if you want to move forward in life, of course, is to meet the right people. But I wouldn't make all of the relationships in your life like that, because they tend to all be
transactional.
Fake.
They're just super transactional. There's no emotional, like,
and you'll always want
being there.
You always want that relationship.
Because we're relational beings. Right. We're emotional beings. One of the worst things you can do to a person is put them in solitary confinement.
Right.
Where they literally go insane. Mm-hmm. Like, their minds do not know how to live in that sort of environment.
Right.
Our minds were not created to live in that sort of environment. And so I think that's what happened with us. Like, I think we were slightly going a little crazy, like a little like off the wire, because we were really limiting our like true friendships. I mean, we had a lot of people around us, but we didn't have a lot of like,
it's that
real emotional relationships.
Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink, like being in the middle of the sea. That's like torture, right?
That is, right? It's like, I'm so thirsty. You're in an ocean. I can't drink none of
it. It's all salt water.
Yeah.
It isn't fresh spring water.
Yeah.
Right.
And if I drink it, it hurts me more than...
It'll kill me if I keep drinking this water.
Yep.
But damn, this is all the water I got, so...
And I think that's why it's really important to just allow ourselves to open up more. I've even doing that more with my family, like sharing some of those things with my mom that I would never normally share. Like, I never like to share anything that I'm going through personally with family, because, again, like, I just don't like to come off as like, I'm in this certain place in my life, or like I may need help, or like I may need just someone to talk to. Like I want it to always appear that everything's good and well,
and I'm successful,
and perfect,
and you raised a good kid, and
all the things. But it's like, that isn't life anyways, and you
sometimes
only end up hurting.
To ask for help.
Not only yourself, but you'll end up hurting those relationships too, because it's like they feel like they can never get to you. Don't get me wrong, there's boundaries, but I'm just saying there's just allowing yourself to open up too is like a big thing.
Right. Because it takes a long time to rebuild that bridge that you burned.
And if there's some friendships that I probably will never get back to again.
Which is unfortunate.
But I'm grateful either way for like the friendships that I have now and like the friendships I know I'll continue to build. So.
And where you are in life. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're going a little bit over on this one. We usually only do 30 minutes. We're at the 40 minute mark.
Because we decided not to film it. And I just personally feel more comfortable when there's no camera right there. And I'm like, I need to look at it or something.
Eye camera. Right. So we're just at our dining table, just having a conversation that we would
Yeah, we would like probably
just
have, and
we
that's how
probably
that's
would have
how,
had
that's
tonight.
exactly what we were talking
That
about
was the whole
before.
point of this whole thing. It's
Because we
true.
were in the car, and we were like, we need to just be able to get back on the podcast and talk about things that we want to talk about.
Right. And not feel obligated to be some sort of spiritual guru or spiritual advisor or whatever.
Right.
Or whatever we felt
It's
like we
maybe
thought
we want to
needed
talk about a
be or
UFC
whatever.
fight.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
whatever.
I want to talk about a new movie that came out. I don't know. I just think that, like, if we remembered what we started this on, it's like how we feel God plays a role into all of it. Like,
Into
he's
normal
into
life.
everything.
Right.
He's in everything. He's in the simple things.
Right.
In every simple little thing. He's not just in the church, and he's not just in, you know, that sermon or that worship song or you praying or you reading the Bible. He's also
That's
there with you
superficial.
if you're sitting
Yeah.
and taking a nap or
Right.
you're watching TV or you're sitting, you know, with your spouse at the dinner table, or like
He
you're
said, I
playing
will
with your
always
dog.
be with you. Not,
Always.
I'll be with you when you're at church. He didn't
I
say
think that's
that.
such an important thing to remember too, because it's like, I will never leave you or forsake you. When I feel like when God uses those words, always and never, it's way more of an
definitive.
impact than how we
use them.
perceive it and use
Yeah.
it.
'Cause
It-
we use
it
them all
really
the time.
seriously means like, I will literally never leave you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm by your side.
He's not the
24/7.
type of, he's not like us where we say stuff like
You're like,
that.
oh my
and
God,
we
call
don't
me
mean it.
whenever. And like, oh, you're calling me, and I'm like, decline.
Right. He doesn't work like that. Like when
No.
he says stuff, he means
He
it.
means it. So I think that's an important part too.
Right.
But thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
Catch us at well, I don't even want to I'm not going to end it on that anymore because I'm not really active on the socials, so it's there if you want to DM us. But
Mhm. We'll
Psalms
post
121
post some clips and stuff
verses 1 through 3.
like that.
Oh my goodness. I lift my eyes up to the
The
mountains.
mountains, where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the
the
maker of heaven and earth. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Love you. Bye.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Look Up Podcast. We appreciate you for spending whatever it may have been for you, your breakfast, your drive into work, your lunch break, or even some time right before bed. We drop an episode every single Tuesday, so we look forward to hanging out with you guys next week. Remember, hold on to this, that when times get tough, look up to the mountains, because where does your help come from? Your help comes from the maker of heaven and earth. We'll see you guys next week.